Fans of old Hollywood movies may already be familiar with Edith Head. If you don't know the name, you have almost definitely watched one of her films. She made nearly 1,000 of them. Her career in film spanned more than 50 years with 27 Oscar nominations and 8 wins, the most wins by a woman in the history of film so far. The only female costume designer working in a field heavily dominated by men, she was also one of the first people to turn herself into a publicly recognizable brand. Yet despite this, the significance of her work is still debated, as her design style was often more conservative than many of her male peers. She exemplifies what it means to know yourself, to be your own biggest cheerleader and not to limit yourself based on other people's opinions. Born in California in 1897, few details are known of Head's early life. She had very little education until attending high school, but made up for this when she did go, successfully graduating and going on to university. Educated women had few career options at the time, so Head embarked on a career as a teacher at a prestigious Hollywood girls' school. To increase her income, she started teaching art, despite her considerably basic knowledge of the subject. To stay ahead of her students, she enrolled in an art college. Head's art college study led her in 1923 to apply successfully for the position of illustrator in Paramount Pictures' wardrobe department. She would later admit to borrowing her college classmates' sketches for her portfolio. Despite having no formal training in fashion or theater and her limited skills as an illustrator being quickly discovered, Edith developed a close relationship with Paramount's top costume designers Howard Greer and Travis Banton, and they become her mentors. Head's early years at Paramount were spent sketching, doing inventory management and attending dress fittings with senior designers. Eventually she was tasked with designing costumes for the studio's B pictures and horse operas, westerns, and given responsibility for dressing the B-grade actors on the bigger pictures, with Travis Banton dressing the main stars. It is difficult to accurately know how many films she worked on during this time. Only the male lead costume designers were credited. Edith herself has said fondly about this period that, "Travis gave me more responsibility than I ever had. He let me do westerns on my own. In the big pictures he'd do the leading lady, Marlene Dietrich for instance, and I'd do the others." Banton's contract was not renewed in 1938, yet Head was not initially considered the best replacement. Paramount executives spending a year searching for a celebrated designer until in 1939 she was elevated to head costume designer at Paramount, at a fraction of the wage Banton had received, and after a year acting in the role. Regarded as a sensible and strategic choice, there was no fanfare and no announcement of her as the new principal designer. Edith quietly became the first woman designer in the business, and the first designer with a mining camp instead of a European background. Edith Head's unusual pedigree and her lack of fashion training meant that her costumes were often considered conservative in comparison with designers from other studios. Much was made of the fact that Head herself dressed extremely conservatively, choosing tailored suits, bespoke of course, in shades of cream, black, brown or grey. Head's understated approach to her own costume was deliberate. She was keen to ensure that the star she was dressing would see only themselves. Head herself recognized that although she was not the most flamboyant of designers, she had other skills which were critical to her success in Hollywood. "After working with Howard Greer and Travis Banton, I knew that I was not a creative design genius. I was never going to be the world's greatest costume designer, but there was no reason I could not be the smartest." Head's realization of the importance of possessing skills outside the realm of costume design is encapsulated by her comment that, "To win, In Hollywood, you'd have to be a combination of psychiatrist, artist, fashion designer, dressmaker, pincushion, historian, nursemaid and purchasing agent. Head was not known for flamboyant design but developed a strong reputation for her uncanny understanding of the human body and how to dress it for the best possible outcomes. Quick to identify any perceived flaws in the actresses she was dressing, Head was also very quick and skilled in finding solutions to hide them. Working with star Barbara Stanwyck, who had always considered her waist too long and her derriere too low, Head utilized optical illusion to alter her figure, raising the waist on Stanwyck's gowns and having the waistband wider at the front than at the back. Her techniques earned her the enduring respect and admiration of many, in some instances resulting in lifelong friendships. Stars such as Grace Kelly, Mae West and Barbara Stanwyck not only developed strong friendships with Head, but they also commissioned her to make clothing for them outside their work at the studio. Edith Head created a brand, exploiting publicity to maintain her career and importance at the studio. Over the decades, her influence and presence went far beyond her work in film. Throughout the 1940s and 50s, Head offered advice to the public through columns in popular Hollywood magazines, offering assistance with the most suitable fashions for a particular body type. Her fan mail was so substantial that in some instances it exceeded that of many of the most significant stars. In 1945 she participated in a new radio show, Art Linkletter's House Party, during which she offered on-the-spot advice to members of the audience on how to dress. Head's fashion critique quickly became one of the most popular segments on the program, although she acknowledged, "I wasn't always nice to those ladies. I tried to be, but sometimes I'd have to be blunt. They didn't know how they looked best and I did." My segment was one of the most popular spots on the show. Do you know why? Because every woman in the world, and every man, for that matter, wants to look better. From the 1940s, Head organized fashion shows, utilizing some of her most recognized and popular costumes. By 1970 she was presenting 18 shows a year. She said, "Now I'm a part-time designer and full-time traveling Hollywood museum." Head published 2 books, The Dress Doctor in 1959 and How to Dress for Success in 1967, both of which are still in print today. And in the 1970s she collaborated with Vogue to produce a series of dress patterns for home seamstresses based on some of her best-known designs. This diversity meant that despite any changes in the studio system, Head was always able to maintain her career and adapt to the times. After 44 years at Paramount Pictures, Edith Head was let go with no acknowledgement of the contribution she had made to Hollywood costume for almost half a century. The year her contract ended with Paramount, Head moved to Universal Studios to work alongside her longtime friend Alfred Hitchcock. Head never retired, her last film Dead Men Don't Wear Plaid premiering just weeks before her death in 1981. Edith Head was one of the longest-working and most award-winning designers. Her tenacity, ambition and contribution to Hollywood costume cannot be underestimated. She was the first female chief costume designer, retaining that position for almost 30 years. Her role in opening the world of fashion to ordinary women cannot be ignored. A style maven for more than half a century, she established herself as a marketable, profitable, and approachable brand. Costume design is now a field heavily dominated by women, and Edith undeniably paved the way for modern superstar designers such as Colleen Atwood, Catherine Martin and Jacqueline Duran. She was by no means a perfect person, however, and I think it is important to acknowledge that even our inspirations can have flaws. Edith Head for me typifies the message that you should always say yes to new opportunities even if they scare you or you do not think you're the most qualified person for the job. Her story is an example of how you can use your skills to carve your own niche in the world. Just because you don't have the same talents as someone else, doesn't mean you cannot be successful in your own right. Edith Head's influence extended far beyond the silver screen, as she played a pivotal role in shaping everyday fashion trends during Hollywood's golden age. Her designs blended glamour with functionality, making them appealing and accessible to a broader audience. By working with the world's most famous actresses, she created looks that inspired millions, and her costumes often sparked trends in mainstream fashion. One of Head's strengths was her ability to design garments that flattered a wide range of body types. Her timeless silhouettes, such as cinched waists, structured shoulders, and flowing skirts, became staples in both couture and ready-to-wear collections. Her designs, while glamorous, were also practical, perfectly balancing elegance with wearability. This made her work influential not only on screen but also in retail, as manufacturers and designers sought to replicate her creations for everyday consumers. Head understood the power of celebrity influence. She frequently collaborated with stars like Audrey Hepburn, Grace Kelly, and Elizabeth Taylor, tailoring costumes that complemented their unique personalities and enhanced their on-screen presence. Iconic looks like Grace Kelly's sophisticated wardrobe in Rear Window or Audrey Hepburn's chic ensembles in Sabrina became templates for modern elegance, inspiring designers and shoppers alike. Beyond clothing, Head became a public figure herself, often appearing on television and publishing advice on style in her book The Dress Doctor. She encouraged women to adopt Hollywood-inspired fashion in their everyday lives, emphasizing the importance of understanding one's body shape and choosing flattering designs. By bridging the gap between costume design and ready-to-wear fashion, Edith Head left a legacy that continues to resonate. Her influence on style, both in film and everyday life, cemented her as a key figure in 20th-century fashion history, demonstrating how cinematic design could shape cultural aesthetics.